Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario Bros. Wonder for the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've essentially managed able to complete certain stages for the sake of the forms of Pipe Rock Plateau, and in addition to that, we also managed able to take care of the forms of the first powers in the game, and on top of that, we also manage able to beat Bowser Jr. for a singular time so far, and also we somehow manage able to explore Pedal Isles. Well, only for like 3 levels or something like that. Well, technically 1 pure level, and in addition with the forms of the badge challenge, and as well as from that, we also manage able to went to visit to Poplin's house to able to get, what else? Yet another Wonder Seed. So today, for this video, is about the fact that hopefully exponentially, we're able to actually completely done everything for the sake of the forms of World 1, which appears to be, of course, Pipe Rock Plateau. So with that said, yeah, let's get to it with... Exponentially speaking, it was one of the trickier levels, if you couldn't tell, because now we've stumbled across into 4 stars difficulty, so I think we'll go ahead and select Parachute Cap for now, and there's also some other badges I can probably show off eventually. So either way, Bull Rush Express. So yeah, I think relatively speaking is that right from the start, we're able to actually obtain the Wonder Flower right from the get-go. Oh yeah, something's worth noting for, by the way, is that apparently though, that Super Mario Run has recently received an update where basically it does manage to bring us Wonder Flower in journey forms within the Toad Rally mode. So yeah, that's actually kind of interesting, all things considered. But then again though, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves at this point, especially concerning for the fact that at this point I need to try to able to collect those 10 flower coins, and believe it or not, this level does contain a secret exit. And, well, suffice to say, much like the forms of how it does it on most 2D Mario games up to this point, is that we need to get a certain power-up in order to able to actually access to a secret exit. Like, for example, that after we have obtained a Wonder Seed, first of all, you notice there's actually a serious amount of those brick blocks. Well, in order to able to actually get through there, is that you need to able to turn into an elephant in order to use the trunk to able to actually smash for those blocks. So, something worth keep this in mind. So, and exponentially, we'll find our way to the secret exit. So, and I think the secret exit is required, by the way, in order to able to actually access to the continuation of the actual map for the sake of the forms of Pipe Rock Plateau. So, however though, like I mentioned this before, is that sometimes, eventually in certain stages, that basically sometimes the goal might trick you at points. So, but even then though, you see what I mean whenever we get to the next couple of stages up ahead. So, and from here, we can now able to actually access to the next level, but I need to go back into this level again, just because I need to go after the next Wonder Seed. So, and exponentially, we'll have to able to find the normal exit, and that's about it, basically. So, that works the job done, especially considering for the fact that so far we're actually doing not too shabby for the most part. So, alright, so it looks like that's... kind of think about it though, is about the fact that every time when that particular Bull Rush Stampede just somehow comes into play, that it almost kind of reminds me of like the Lion King vibes. Well, to be more accurate though, with the forms of the actual wildebeests and stuff like that. So, but you get the idea for that point. So, anyway, today's date, of course, is the 5th of January today, in some cases in 2024 today. Relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I'm pretty certain that we've only got about 2 more weeks left until not only The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered for the PlayStation 5 is going to be releasing at that one point, and also around that time where basically another code Recollection is going to be releasing on the Nintendo Switch around the same day as each other. So, and I believe also we've got about 13 more days to go until the Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown is going to be releasing at that one point. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy kind of thinking about it. Speaking of something craziness though, is that did you know that Super Mario Bros. Wonder came out exactly the same week as Sonic Superstars? Mind you, Sonic Superstars came out first, just before when this game first came out. So relatively speaking though, it seems pretty crazy for its entire competition in mind. But either way though, let's just go ahead and save my progress right here. Although, kind of think about it, unlike the forms of how it does it on the previous New Super Mario Bros. Games, well, at least ever since in, New Super Mario Bros. All the way up to New Super Mario Bros. U, including New Super Luigi U as well. Basically though, you can now able to save your progress at any time, so no need to worry about to speed the game normally, and able to actually access the forms of the ability to save your game. So, unless if you complete certain towers, or certain castles, or anything else like that, or even some cases in New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, and New Super Mario Bros. 2 for the 3DS, that every time whenever you do activate, you know, the Star Coin Gate, if you manage to able to actually access those Toad Houses, then obviously it does have the ability for you to able to actually save your progress. So, yeah, that's one thing to put it. Also, I just realized that we're entering the level that it does kind of reminds me like I was playing Donkey Kong Country Returns, including recently that you know how the fact that Sonic and Knuckles is obviously continue playing through Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze right now. It seems out of nowhere we ended up in a Silhouette level, which I will say it's pretty cool to see in this particular stage like this. Especially the reason being for this is because, as you can tell, that we now stumbled across into yet another new types of enemies, which even I know these are like Springos, I think is what it says anyway, and we're able to get ourselves our glorious Wonder Flower, and I think the Wonder effect on this stage is that we ended up like stretching? Okay, that seems very bizarre indeed. But relatively speaking, I was about the fact that every time when you just manage to crouch, you're able to actually go back into its normal size. But if you let go of the crouch button, or in some cases though, if you just let go of the well, the D-pad down, or if you let go of the thumbstick for, you know, going downwards, is that potentially speaking, are you able to stretch yourself back up? So, but sometimes it can be tricky to handle at one point, but when you get the hang of it though, it's actually not too bad. It's just you have to be very careful not to able to get hit too many times, like I just did for a moment ago. And I believe, yeah, that's the end of a level right there, so I definitely need to find the Wonder Seed. So I believe the Wonder Seed is, oh, I did see it for a few moments ago, so there we go. And that way we should turn back into ourselves an elephant, Luigi right here. So, yeah, you get the idea about that. And a good thing we didn't take care of all these three Springo kind of enemies like these, for instance, because otherwise, if I ended up get rid of them during that process, then I won't be able to try to get the golden flag. So, anyway though, there we go. So that pretty much does it for this level. So, not exactly sure why did I say that particular line twice, by the way. Well, mind you, no matter what though, it's about the fact it's been 2 days since we've last came to this game. Just because, you know, we're going back into normality for now. And I'm really still hoping that our uploading schedule doesn't go completely messy, unlike the forms of last year. Well, in the beginning it's not so bad, but until likely the second half of the year, in 2023, things get a lot messier. So, anyways, Cosmic Hippos. So, in some cases though, now we're going to be selecting Peach. So, in some cases though, we can able to once again dealing with those hippos enemies, and thankfully we can able to get ourselves our elephant fruit every time whenever we start the level. So yeah, things get a little bit more relative at that point. So also, I should probably also want to mention about this as well, is that potentially speaking though, at the end of the day, when it comes to the forms of both Sonic Superstars and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, I feel like that I do seem to able to enjoy Super Mario Bros. Wonder a bit more, mainly because no matter what though, it did something a little bit more interesting when it comes to new concepts, and on top of that, the level themes are pretty much, well, some are familiar, but some of them are actually very new and interesting concepts. So, and on top of that, though, is about the fact that it did somehow manage to able to receive the actual winner for the sake of the forms of the best family game, according to the Forms of the Game Awards. So, pretty fantastic, all things considered, especially because everyone knows about Mario, because he's the most iconic video game character of all time, which we already know that by now, ever since back in the day, in 1985, or technically lesser than that, so, at least as far as I can recall correctly or something, so. But, anyway, I suppose, with that being said though, is that there's nothing else I can probably able to discuss on that one point. Although don't get me wrong about the fact that I still do seem to able to enjoy Sonic Superstars for what it is, but it does have some very weird design choices. Like, for instance, that I feel like that the soundtrack in Sonic Superstars, it just feels a bit kind of mixed bag, because obviously it feels like a combination of the forms of not only Sonic Mania, but also with the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Episode 1 and Episode 2, respectively, because of the forms of that particular compositions. So, which you probably already know what exactly what I'm gonna say. So, but exponentially speaking though, I think it's probably best if we wait to able to actually do Sonic Superstars eventually at some point, but we're not exactly sure when exactly, just because, well, I was gonna be looking forward to able to get into that game as well, but like I mentioned this earlier, is that we got to wait for a little while, so because of that though, I just need to take care of the forms of some current Let's Plays for now, which are, you know, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and as well as Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. In fact, kind of think about it, that's actually by the forms of our second time playing through a Donkey Kong game during the course of by the beginning of the year so far. The first one being the forms of Donkey Kong 64 for the Nintendo 64, and my goodness, that was actually very lengthy for that game, especially concerning with the forms of a lot of collectibles you have to put up with. So I get the strong sense of feeling that the Wonder effect in this particular level is gonna be pretty cool. And that is, potentially speaking though, is that once we touch the Wonder Flower, we're able to launch ourselves in the air, and I believe we might able to get ourselves a nice little callback to the forms of the Game Boy game, which appears to be Super Mario Land 2, or just, I don't know actually, because it's been a very long time since I actually have last played Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. But basically though, it's about the fact that in this Wonder effect right here, oh, and I do apologize for that once again, my capture card decides to glitch out again, so I will try to fix that at some point until next Monday, so I'll promise you guys for that. So, but it's just no matter what though, it's just about the fact that sometimes my program needs to able to try to get used to with our new laptop for now, so it might take a bit of while to able to get this process going, so, but that's besides the point. So in this particular segment right there is that we need to avoid a lot of spikes, so that's all you have to expect at that point. And it kind of thinking about it, it does kind of reminds me like I was exploring through Spaceland from the likes of or the Moon Zone from the likes of the forms of Super Mario Land 2, for the sake of the forms of space physics, or even in some cases though we ended up in a zero gravity moment. And then as soon as you're able to obtain the Wonder Seed, then obviously it leads you straight back to the forms of the red pipe, and that pretty much leads us to likely back to the beginning portion of that checkpoint as you saw from earlier, and exponentially I think we are done here. So pretty fun level to me though, especially concerning for the fact that I just love to do a lot of like bouncing and such. Although exponentially, for what I've heard anyway, is that during the forms of the actual competition between both Sonic Superstars and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and not only that, it came out in exactly the same week also as Marvel's Spider-Man 2, made by Insomniac Games. So, pretty crazy for that particular week back then, during the course of last year. Although I'll explain more details on that in a moment, because it looks like we stumbled across into the next badge challenge. To be more specifically, Expert Badge Challenge. And in some cases though, we have Jet Run 1. So in some cases though, you run automatically, you know, think of like the Mark Speed sections for the likes of Sonic 06, except you have more full control. So because of that though, exponentially you continuously running, and kind of think about it, these segments also does remind me of a similar vibes as in New Super Mario Bros. 2. Where it comes to the forms of those cannon levels, where basically you run automatically the whole way through, while you're simply trying to able to carefully time your jumps, and able to avoid certain enemies, and you probably name the rest of it though. So, I wasn't able to actually use Jet Run that much, apart from that important aspect, once we're able to continue proceedings for this, for the most part. So, yeah, I guess that was it for that particular Expert Badge Challenge, and from here we were able to actually access to something a little bit more of a secrecy, which I was expecting to try and able to go in there, but I think it's probably best to able to save it up for later. And also, as you can tell, we somehow collected every single wonder seeds in journey forms of, well, Pipe Rock Plateau. So that means is that if you couldn't tell, since the actual number UI is now in a different color, so this means you collected every single wandered seeds in journey course of the corresponding world. So, yeah, pretty cool though. But there's only one thing we need to do when it comes to the forms of Pipe Rock Plateau. And that is, of course, we need to able to go after that last 10 flower coin, which is going to be at the palace. So hopefully we'll try to go after that. But before I do that, I need to spend quite a few flower coins so I can able to buy some more standees, even though sometimes I might bump into those duplicates every once in a while. And even in some cases though, luckily for me, I do somehow manage to stumble across into some rare variants, so, which I suppose that's a good thing, and thus you might able to realize some spoiler elements coming up, specifically when it comes to the forms of the next 2 new power-ups that we might able to get introductioning as well. So, I suppose time will tell though, especially considering for the fact that I could assure to you those standees alone might be considered to be a true 100% completion as well. So it's very similar to the forms of how it does it when you're trying to get stamps during forms within Super Mario 3D World, except, thankfully though, that getting those stamps, well, assuming if you know where to find them, you would be okay, but it's just about the fact that you need to replay certain levels multiple times with 5 playable characters, which is insane, unless if you're trying to find an easier method by utilizing 4 different control types. At least it's pretty easy on the Switch version, just because you do have 2 Joy-Cons right from the get-go, likely also if you manage to buy the Nintendo Switch itself. In addition to that, with the forms of the Switch Pro controller, which I always attempt to use a lot, for the majority of the forms of Nintendo Switch games basically, apart from, again, a couple of exceptions, which is, of course, Super Mario Party and WarioWare Move It, just because those games heavily utilizes Joy-Con controllers for its, you know, motion controls, and you name the rest. So, now, I was expecting to try to able to switch characters for a moment, but I've decided able to go for Princess Peach for the sake of the forms of this stage, just in case no matter what though, since that we've already technically beat this stage as, I would say, one of those colored Yoshis, but it's just about the fact that I was missing one of those collectibles, which appears to be, of course, the last 10 flower coin basically, so hopefully we should be able to try to obtain that for reals, as long as I keep on getting hit most of my time, and, oh come on, those bone Goombas just seem to pop out of nowhere. I'm guessing the reason being for this is because every once in a while, certain enemies do spawn as soon as you're able to continue your progressioning for one of those particular palaces, so and I must say is about the fact I love the new soundtrack in this game this time around. At least thankfully it's nowhere near as reused as the forms of the majority of the new Super Mario Bros. Games in the past. So, relatively speaking though, everything else will be seem to be more accounted for. And it seems pretty crazy too, that it's been like, you know, 11 years since the last 2D Mario game, at least specifically when it was released on, you know, consoles, as far as I'm aware. Likely also because of how the fact that usually that new Super Mario Bros. U did originally came out in 2012 on the Wii U, but then it gets ported over to the Switch until 2019 sometime, despite the fact that in the copyright stuff, that for whatever reason it did mention 2012 all the way up to 2018 for whatever reason, which I'm not exactly sure why that's the case. I'm guessing it's like, well, it's pretty tricky to say. But regardless of everything else though, yeah, that's what I can really say about it. So, anyways, let's go and deal with Bowser Jr., but this time with Princess Peach of all things. So, and hopefully we should able to well, I will admit though right away, is that one of the disappointing aspects about this game for me though, is the boss fights, because they are pretty much self-explanatory and simple stuff at the same time, because I almost assume for the fact that they go out for the challenge, but for whatever reason, they are still able to actually get themselves 3 hits, so, just like the forms of how it does it on any other Mario games up to this point, so, well, at least in every sense and during the forms of sometime in, well, you know what I'm saying, with Super Mario Bros. 3, or even in some cases though, Super Mario Bros. 2 USA, but that's besides the point, so. And there we go, folks. We somehow fully completed everything in terms of the forms of Pipe Rock Plateau. So in some cases though, yeah, as you can tell, as soon as you double check on the map selection screen, basically you see that little tick right there, right next to that particular Wonder Seed count. And basically that means you've collected everything, or in some cases though, you've completed everything in one of the worlds. So, something worth keep that in mind, especially considering that it's kind of like the similar thing as the forms of how it does it in Super Mario 3D World, where basically if you manage able to completely done everything in the world, you come across into a paw print, meaning about the fact you've collected everything. So, something worth keep that in mind. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and unlock the next level right here by simply able to utilize the Wonder Seeds again. And hopefully, we should able to actually just to continue these on for this point. So, anyways, let's get to it with the forms of Robbird Cove. So, and I think we'll go ahead and use the Dolphin Kick according to the forms of Prince Florian to somehow recommend us to able to use that badge to begin with. So, because you know what I'm saying about the fact there's going to be a lot of swimming involved in this particular world, I guess. So, although keep this in mind though, it seems pretty interesting about the fact that Petal Isles is technically like a beach environment kind of place. So, yeah, it seems pretty interesting to say the least. So, alright, so, I did not notice there's a bottomless pit down there. Although, my guess is because I somehow almost got confused about the fact I was trying to get that 10 flower coin down there, but if I recall correctly, is that we need to use the Dolphin Kick to go through that little current right there, which is pretty interesting, because normally we couldn't do that for any other 2D Mario games, but you can now, thanks to the forms of the Dolphin Kick badge. So, I did not notice until right now, so that seems cool enough, I guess. So, anyways, let's bring back the mushroom. Oh yeah, every time whenever you do manage to bring your item inventory out, basically though, that the item just somehow turns into a balloon for a bit, and then you can able to actually touch that item balloon, and then that way you can able to claim that power up for real. So, something's worth noting for. So, but anyway, as I was saying about the forms of the actual results, in terms of the actual sales numbers, is that what I've heard that Super Mario Bros. Wonder did manage to sell pretty well. And as far as in comparison to the forms of Sonic Superstars, for some reason it was actually kind of did not sell as well compared to the forms of how it does on Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which I'm not exactly sure why that is. But exponentially speaking though, is that hopefully we'll try to find out some more details about the forms of the updated Switch sales for the sake of the forms of maybe at some point in next month. So hopefully that should be the case, especially concerning for the fact that, well, I would say no matter what though that, well, you get the idea for that point. Oh, and on top of that, it's about the fact that, what I'm guessing correctly, is that we've only just got about 3 more weeks left, I'm presuming so anyway, until Tekken 8 will be releasing on PlayStation 5, including Xbox Series X. So, but yeah, like we already mentioned about this countless amount of times already, it's kind of unfortunate for the PlayStation 4 owners and as well as Xbox One owners. Basically though, they won't be able to actually get a chance to play Tekken 8 after all, because at this point in time, is that when it comes to big major releases during that time, it's going to be releasing on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X for now. So, which I guess that makes it pretty obvious, kind of think about it, because those two consoles are pretty much current at the moment, whilst usually for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, that came out for quite a long time now, since like 10 years ago. Like, it seems pretty crazy though, while Nintendo Switch is still around, but we still have no idea what Nintendo's going to be planning for next. So, likely for its next console or something, but then again, we'll have to wait and find out until whenever they decide to do the first ever Nintendo Direct during the course of in 2024. I mean, after all, no matter what though, I don't think it's possible we're able to see a brand new Mario Kart anytime soon, after the events of, you know, they wrapped up everything for the Booster Course Pass for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So, yeah, and also exponentially as well, I'm pretty sure all the Smash content has already been finished. Well, at least specifically though, is about the fact that when it comes to announcements and stuff like that. Oh yeah, I should also mention is that the new spirits will be up soon for the sake of the forms of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So hopefully I should be able to get my chance to able to actually go back into that game again. So anyway, so we've finished this level right here. So yeah, pretty swell. Oh yeah, for that wonder effect, as you saw, that water just somehow goes into a ceiling. So yeah, it seems like it's hard to explain really, but even then though, you probably get the idea of what I was going to be mentioning about. So anyway, so that does it for that level, and if I recall, we was able to do the next couple of levels ahead. Although, mind you, I need to be back for that previous level because I somehow missed out on that. You know what I'm saying, with the 10 flower coin. So hopefully we'll try to find that until whenever we get to that point. So anyways though, kind of thinking about it though, for this point guys, that's as far as we can able to discuss upon at that one point. Even though I would have liked to explain something else, although, kind of thinking about it, until next month, that we should be able to expect to get ourselves the most highly anticipated games during the forms of this year. That's of course Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And if I recall correctly, by that time when 2024 wraps up, I believe that game will get ourselves the Game of the Year award. I will able to predict that right now. But anyways, Bluebird Roast. So if I recall correctly, we'll bring back the actual parachute cap. And also, this is going to be one of the levels that we might introduce into ourselves a brand new power-up. So, I'm pretty excited for this for the most part. So, let's see what it does brings us into. Oh, what's this? And that, I believe, that's actually known as the Bubble Flower. Where basically, all it does is that this allows you to able to blow bubbles. And then you can able to use the bubbles to disintegrate enemies with. And I think, if I recall correctly, that moveset is very familiar. Well, for those of you who haven't played New Super Mario Bros. U before, likely, for instance, if you come across into Blue Baby Yoshi, Blue Baby Yoshi also utilizes the forms of blowing bubbles, but relatively speaking, that was about the fact that you can able to use the Baby Blue Yoshi during the forms of temporary situations, likely also that you can able to bring along with him in any level, whilst in here though, it's now a full proper power-up. So yeah, it seems pretty interesting, at least as far as concept-wise. So, relatively speaking, that was about the fact that it's also very similar to the forms of how it does it for Blue Baby Yoshi, since in New Super Mario Bros. U. So, because of that though, yeah, it's remarkably similar, except the fact that there is no way we can able to come across into Baby Yoshis for now, during the course of this entire whole playthrough, because obviously we can now play as proper Yoshis this time, as opposed to leaving him behind in one of the levels. So, I'm sure no matter what though, Yoshi fans will be expected to be pretty happy about that, especially concerning for the fact that every time whenever they complete the level with Yoshi during the course of the New Super Mario Bros. Wii and New Super Mario Bros. U, that they just hate the fact that, well, they just get left behind in during the forms of one of the levels, in some levels anyway. Likely also, they keep on saying like, no Yoshi left behind, or anything else like that. You know, kind of like the forms of whenever you're trying to say to the soldiers or something. So, like, no soldier left behind. So, I think you get the idea for that point. So, but anyway, and I do apologize for that particular weird sniffing that's been going on. Well, that's mainly because I was a little bit rough at the moment. So, hopefully I'll be better by then, and during at some point in next week. So, I do apologize for this point as well. So, and I believe we now come across into a wonder effect on this particular stage, where basically any other enemies just somehow blow bubbles, specifically the rainbow bubbles. So it almost kind of reminds me like a rainbow vibes for the sake of the forms of like the, well, let's just say the rainbow levels from the likes of New Super Mario Bros. 2 or something, except the fact that, well, relatively speaking, you don't need to collect any other coins for that matter, so. Well, I'm sure enough though, much like the forms of how it does on New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, and New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and New Super Mario Bros. U, your life counter will max out at 99, not so much for 1,110 lives, unlike New Super Mario Bros. 2, that basically though, because that game utilizes a lot of coins, so for the sake of the forms of trying to reach, you know, 1 million coins for your ultimate goal, so. Man, I really love that image, by the way. But either way, I suppose no matter what though, once we're done with that level, is that we can now able to actually, well, suffice to say, we can now able to actually access to the next world right there. Because after all, we've actually got quite enough of those Wonder Seeds. But before we end off the video right there, we need to head back into that level right there. Because I need to go ahead and find the last 10 flower coins. So, and of course, we've already equipped the dolphin kick. So just in case. Oh, and by the way, every time when you do see the Princess Choice, basically it automatically selects your badge of your choice. So in some cases, though, we're going back into, you know, a dolphin kick after all, because, you know, this level's gonna be filled to the brim with a lot of swimming, you know. So yeah, I believe there's also the final thing I want to mention about is that, well, it looks like we got ourselves the actual confirmation for the actual release date has been confirmed when it comes to the upcoming game called South Park Snow Day. That game is going to be expected to be releasing on not only Nintendo Switch, but also on PC, and PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Sadly, no PlayStation 4 or Xbox One releases, because I believe next generation of systems needs to move on now. So, relatively speaking, though, I believe South Park Snow Day is going to be releasing at some point on March, so roughly around the same month as when Princess Peach Showtime is going to be releasing. So yeah, pretty strange to able to actually get that release in mind. So, but I digress. So yeah, I think, relatively speaking, that's as far as we can able to actually mention about during the course of the forms of today's discussion. So, but then again, though, I will try to fix my capture card problem again until at some point until next week. And exponentially speaking, it's about the fact that, well, I can't even believe we've almost nearly at the end of the first ever week in terms of the forms of 2024, along with January as well. So because of that, though, despite the fact that we haven't exactly brought anything for January for some time, well, we already mentioned about the fact that we've already pre-ordered the first 2 items so far for 2024, which is, of course, the Sora Amiibo, and as well as Mario vs. Donkey Kong Remake. And hopefully by that time until next month, I'm also able to pre-order Princess Peach Showtime. So hopefully that makes the actual point. We're not exactly entirely sure about the forms of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD or Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remake for the Switch. Well, that's mainly because we're still waiting to be able to confirm the actual release dates between these two games combined during the course of the, you know, the upcoming Nintendo Direct at some point. So yeah, it looks like I don't think it's possible we can able to actually explore the majority of the forms of Petal Isles for some time, because now we can able to go into the next world. So yeah, which does manage to take place in Fluff Puff Peaks. So feels like a snowy environment or something like that. So, exponentially speaking, though, I'm really looking forward to see how that world is going to plays out to be. So, but unfortunately, though, it's about the fact that we'll have to wait until specifically until on Monday, or Wednesday, or Friday, or even onwards for that matter. So, and yep, here we are in the second world. So, yeah, not much else to say about this for the most part. So, even though kind of think about it, yeah, it does manage to take place in a snowy environment, at least specifically in the beginning. So hopefully we should be able to get ourselves our next royal seat somewhere by the end of that particular world. So yeah, I suppose with that being said though, we got the endings of this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Is that we're about to begin the second world known as Fluff Puff Peak. So yeah, I got a lot of high expectations with this world in general, because look at this view, it's so amazing. So yeah, I will see you guys until on next Monday. Later, fellas.